The rain fell hard on the dusty road as the rancher drove home after a long day. He had mud on his boots, tired eyes, and a truck full of animal feed. But what made him hit the brakes wasn't the weather. It was the strange shape standing near the broken fence. A woman, tall and proud, stood holding 3 small children close to her. Her silver robe was torn, soaked in rain, and barely covered her shoulders. She didn't cry. She didn't scream. She just stood there, like a statue made of sadness and pride. The rancher rolled down his window. Confused, the kids looked scared, wet, and cold, their small hands clutching their mother's legs. He had never seen eyes like hers, glowing faint blue, not human, not normal. "Hey," he called out, "you all right?" The woman didn't answer. One of the children sneezed, and the smallest one began to cry. He looked around. No other car, no other soul, just wide Texas land and stormy sky. She was not from Earth, that much was clear, but she looked more tired than dangerous. He opened his door, stepped out into the rain, and said the words that would change everything. "Get in my truck right now." For a long moment, the woman didn't move, then slowly she nodded. She lifted the smallest child in her arms, held the others by the hand, and walked toward him. Her steps were slow, heavy, like each one hurt. As she reached the truck, her knees gave up and she fell forward. The rancher caught her, surprised by how light she felt. He carried her to the passenger seat and helped the children climb in. They were shaking but too tired to cry anymore. He turned up the heater and covered them with his old jacket. The truck was silent except for the sound of rain hitting the roof. He started driving, looking at her sideways. "What's your name?" he asked gently. "Sarenthia," she whispered, voice weak but firm. He nodded. "I'm Sam." For a few minutes, neither said anything. He didn't ask too many questions. He could see she had been through something terrible. The children soon fell asleep in the back seat, holding each other. As the truck rolled down the dirt road to his ranch, Sam looked again at the woman beside him. Her robe, though torn, looked royal, like something from a palace. Her hands were cut and bruised, her feet bare, but there was something strong in her, like a queen who had lost everything, yet still stood tall. He parked near his barn and helped her inside. "I don't have much," he said, "but the barn is warm, and it's safe." She nodded again, and instead of the guest room he offered, she chose the barn floor. Sam brought them food, bread, soup, and warm milk. But before feeding her children, Sarenthia smelled each bowl, tested the food with her own lips. Only after she was sure it was safe did she pass it to her children. He watched from the doorway, not angry but curious. Who had hurt her so badly that she didn't trust even a warm meal? Later that night, as he walked back from the barn, Sam looked up at the stars. He was a simple man, never thought much about aliens or war in the skies, but now, one was sleeping in his barn, with children who looked both scared and special. At midnight, he couldn't sleep. Something was bothering him, so he returned to the barn just to check. He opened the door quietly and stopped. The air inside was glowing with a soft blue light. The children were sleeping, but one floated slightly above the hay. A faint hum filled the air, and strange symbols flickered around the child's fingers. Sam didn't understand what he was seeing, but one thing was clear. These weren't just refugees. They were something more, something others might come looking for. He closed the door slowly, heart pounding. The last thing he heard before walking away was Sarenthia whispering a lullaby in a language that did not belong to this world. Sam woke early, before the sun. He was used to rising with the roosters, feeding cattle, checking fences, and moving quietly through his land, but today something was different. There was royalty in his barn, and not the kind from fairy tales. The night before still felt like a strange dream. A woman not of this world with eyes that glowed like moonlight, and 3 children who made the air hum when they slept. She didn't cry, didn't beg, just accepted help with the pride of someone who had once owned stars. Sam walked slowly to the barn, his boots crunching on wet gravel. He opened the wooden door, and the soft light of dawn spilled inside. Sarenthia was already awake, sitting upright, her back straight even though she had no pillow. She was brushing the youngest girl's hair with her fingers, untangling each knot gently. She looked up when she saw him, her eyes tired but calm. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for not asking questions." Sam gave a slow nod. "Didn't seem like you were ready to answer them." The barn smelled of hay, animals, and smoke from the kitchen nearby. The children were wrapped in old wool blankets. and a small fire burned safely in a metal barrel Sam had placed for warmth. "I offered the guest room," Sam said, leaning against the post. "You refused it." Saranthia looked around the barn, at the straw under her feet, the wooden beams above, the tools hanging on the wall. "I once slept in a bed made of clouds," she whispered, "with stars carved into the ceiling above me. But right now, this straw feels more honest." Sam didn't know what to say. He scratched the back of his neck and walked over to place a tray of breakfast on a crate. Eggs, toast, and warm milk, not royal food, but enough to show care. One of the boys sniffed the air and smiled. "He likes your cooking," Saranthia said with a small laugh. It was the first time Sam had seen her smile, brief, soft, but real. As the children ate, Sam sat on a bale nearby. He watched the way they moved, too quiet, too careful, like kids who had learned fear too early. The older boy flinched at sudden sounds. The little girl wouldn't let go of her mother's arm, not even to drink. "People are going to notice," Sam finally said. 3 kids, glowing eyes, strange clothes. "This ain't exactly normal out here." Saranthia's face turned serious. "I can make them look more human," she said, "but not for long. We cannot stay." "Where will you go?" Sam asked. She didn't answer, she just stared at the fire, as if it held the memory of everything she had lost. "My world fell," she finally whispered. "Not to war, but betrayal. I was royalty, Duchess of the Alaran province, ruler of 6 moons. But my own husband sold us to the Emperor." Sam raised an eyebrow. "Sold? For power," she said bitterly. "He wanted the throne. And our children—" She stopped herself, looked at them eating quietly, then looked away. Sam understood that pain. He had seen it in soldiers and animals left behind, in people who had nothing left but pride and scars. "You're safe here," he said. "For now," she replied. "But you are a kind man, Sam. I do not want danger to follow you." Sam stood up and looked her in the eye. "This is my land. I decide what follows me." The children began to stir again. One of them had found an old horseshoe and was playing with it. Suddenly the boy's fingers lit up again, a soft glow pulsing in time with his heartbeat. Sam stepped back, surprised. "They don't know how to control it yet," Saranthia explained. "Their gifts are tied to emotion. When they are scared or sad, it comes out." Sam watched as the glow faded, and the boy looked guilty. "Don't be scared," Sam said gently. "That's just part of who you are." Saranthia looked at him, her eyes softening. "You say that now, but if others see—" "They won't," Sam said firmly. "We'll figure it out." She looked at him again, then slowly stood, even in torn robes and muddy feet. She had the grace of a queen. "You do not know me. Yet you risk your peace," she said. "I have a rule," Sam replied. "When someone is standing in the rain with 3 kids, I don't ask where they're from. I just open the door." There was silence between them, a silence filled with quiet respect. Then the youngest girl walked over to Sam, holding out the horseshoe with both hands. She didn't say a word, just placed it in his palm. Sam looked down at the old rusty metal, and for some reason, it felt like the beginning of something much bigger than him. The night fell faster than usual that day. A heavy wind blew across the empty fields, carrying the smell of rain and dust. The ranch was quiet, but the silence didn't feel peaceful. It felt like the world was holding its breath. Sam sat on his porch with a lantern beside him, cleaning his old rifle. He wasn't expecting trouble, but something in his gut told him to stay awake. Inside the barn, Saranthia and her children were asleep, their soft breathing mixed with the sound of crickets. Then all at once the dogs started barking. Their growls were sharp. Desperate, Sam stood up, eyes narrowing. The last time his dogs barked like that was when coyotes came too close, but this wasn't that. He grabbed the rifle and walked into the yard. The moon was hidden behind dark clouds. Then he saw it, a shadow passing across the sky. Silent. No sound of engines, no light, just darkness moving above. Sam's breath caught, he whispered. "Not a plane." In the barn, Saranthia opened her eyes at the same time. She felt it before she saw it. The vibration of something alien. Familiar and dangerous, her heart started to race. "They found us," she whispered to herself. The children woke as she gathered them close. The youngest began to cry. "Mama." "The lights are gone." Saranthia hushed her gently. "Quiet, little one, stay still, outside." Sam heard footsteps that weren't human. Slow, heavy, deliberate, he crouched behind the fence, finger ready on the trigger. 3 figures walked through the mist, tall, covered in dark armor, glowing red eyes beneath their helmets. One of them spoke in a voice that didn't sound like speech but vibration. Target detected. Energy signature confirmed. Retrieve the Starborns. Sam didn't know what Starborns meant, but he didn't need to. He aimed and fired. The blast echoed through the night. The shot hit one of the armored figures in the chest. The creature stumbled, then turned toward him slowly. "Not dead, just angry, Sam," Sarenthia shouted from the barn. Her voice carried power. The air around her shimmered as she stepped out, her hands glowing faint silver. "You will not touch my children," she cried. The hunters charged. Sam fired again, hitting another one, this time in the head. Sparks flew. Metal cracked, but there were too many of them, and their weapons hummed with deadly blue light. One raised his arm, aiming a strange cannon toward the barn. Before he could fire, Sarenthia lifted both hands and screamed. A burst of light exploded from her palms, pure energy that blinded the night. The hunter's weapon shattered, and he was thrown backward into the dirt. Sam ran toward her, covering her side. "What are they?" he shouted. "Bounty hunters," she said breathlessly. "Sent by the Emperor to take my children alive." Sam fired another shot. Direct hit. One hunter fell, twitching. But the last one was fast. Too fast. He appeared behind Sarenthia and grabbed her arm. She struggled, shouting. Sam swung his rifle like a club and smashed the creature's helmet. Cracking it open for the first time, he saw its face, gray skin, no nose, sharp teeth, and black eyes filled with hate. The creature hissed. "You can't protect them forever, human." Sam pressed the barrel of his gun under its jaw and pulled the trigger. The shot echoed across the valley. The creature fell still. The storm finally broke, rain poured down. Washing the smoke and dust from the air, Sam helped Sarenthia to her feet. She was bleeding from her arm but still standing tall. Her children ran to her crying. "It's over," Sam said softly. "They're gone." But Sarenthia shook her head. "No, not gone," she whispered. This was only the beginning. They dragged the bodies into the field and covered them with a tarp. When Sam looked closer, he noticed something strange. Small metal discs glowing faintly on their armor. One of them was still transmitting a signal. He picked it up, his fingers trembling. "What's this?" he asked. Sarenthia's face went pale. "It's a tracker," she said. "They'll know we fought back. They'll send more." Sam looked toward the horizon where thunder rolled in the distance. "How long do we have?" "Not long," she said quietly. "They will not stop until they have my children." The rain fell harder. Sam stood there for a moment, staring at the barn, at the frightened kids clinging to their mother. He wasn't a soldier anymore, just a rancher. But something inside him shifted that night. He knew one thing clearly. He wasn't going to let them be taken. He turned to Sarenthia. "Then we make this place ready," he said. "What do you mean?" She asked. "I mean if they're coming," Sam said, loading his rifle again. "We make sure they regret it." Sarenthia looked at him surprised. "You would fight for us?" Sam looked at her with calm, steady eyes. "You stood in the rain holding 3 kids. Not weapons," he said. "That was enough for me." She didn't speak, but in that moment she understood something rare about humans. They didn't fight for glory or empire. They fought because their hearts refused to stay quiet. Sam stood in his kitchen, hands gripping the edge of the sink. The night had passed, but the memory of the hunters was still fresh. 3 dead aliens buried behind his barn, 1 cracked rifle, and children who could light up the air with fear. He stared at his reflection in the window, rain streaking down the glass. In the barn, Sarenthia moved quietly, cleaning the children's clothes with cold water. She tied her hair back with a torn ribbon from her old robe. She didn't speak much that morning, just stayed close to her children and watched the sky. Something had changed in her. She looked more alert, less tired, like a queen stepping back into her role, even without her crown. Sam walked into the barn holding coffee and a warm blanket. "You slept?" he asked. "Not really," Sarenthia said, "but thank you." He placed the blanket over her shoulders. "You don't owe me thanks," he said. "I just want to understand." She looked up at him, eyes filled with something old. Grief, maybe guilt. "There are things I buried long ago," she said slowly. "Things I never thought I'd have to dig up again." Sam didn't push. Instead, he walked over to the corner of the barn where he kept his tools and pulled open a small wooden drawer. He had hidden something there the night before. a strange device he found on one of the dead. Bounty hunters. It was shaped like a triangle, dark metal, with a glowing green line pulsing slowly. I found this in their armor, Sam said. Any idea what it is? Sarenthia froze. She reached for the device carefully, not touching the glow. That's a royal tracker, she said, voice suddenly sharp. It connects to the Emperor's ship directly. Her hands trembled slightly. This model. It only gets used for high-value targets. You mean you? Sam asked. She nodded, then looked at her children playing quietly with straw and an old horseshoe. No, she said, not me, them. Sam blinked. But they're just kids. They're not just royal children, Sarenthia whispered. They are starborns born during the Alaran eclipse, something that only happens every 1,000 years. In my culture, that makes them more than heirs. It makes them symbols of prophecy power. Sam sat down slowly. And the Emperor wants that power. Yes, she said. He fears what they could become. He wants them raised in his court, trained, controlled. He wants to make them tools. Sam clenched his jaw. Then we'll make sure he never touches them. Sarenthia gave a bitter smile. You speak like it's simple, she said. But you're just a rancher. Sam stood, walked over to a dusty cabinet and pulled out an old box. He opened it slowly. Inside were medals, photos, and a folded uniform. I wasn't always just a rancher, he said. Sarenthia looked at the photos. Sam in armor, standing beside soldiers in war-torn lands. You were a soldier, she said. Surprised years ago, Sam replied. I got tired of fighting for people who gave bad orders. Now I fight for those who can't fight for themselves. There was silence. Then Sarenthia asked softly, Why did you help me? Sam looked her in the eye. Because you were standing in the rain, holding your babies, he said. And because nobody else would, she didn't say anything. But her eyes welled with tears she didn't let fall. Suddenly, one of the children gasped. The oldest boy had touched the glowing device, his fingers now lit with sparks, and his body lifted slightly into the air. Stop! Sarenthia cried out. Sam rushed forward, but the glow around the boy faded slowly on its own, and he dropped gently onto the hay. He looked up, blinking. I saw something, the boy whispered, a big black ship. And it was coming fast. Sam and Sarenthia looked at each other. He's seeing a real-time vision, she said. It's not just power. It's warning. Sam grabbed his radio, but the signal was full of static. He walked outside to get a better connection and froze in the distance, far beyond the hills. He saw lights in the sky. Not stars, not planes, it was a fleet. They're here, he muttered. He ran back inside. We don't have much time, he said. We need to hide them, move them. Something, but Sarenthia stood firm. No more running, she said. If we run, they'll never stop. We stand, Sam nodded slowly. Then we turn this ranch into a fortress, he said. The ranch had always been a quiet place. It was where wind whispered through fences, where cattle moved slow and nothing ever changed, but now it was turning into something else. Sam stood in the middle of the yard, staring at the sky. Bright dots moved far above, ships circling silently, waiting, watching. He had seen this pattern in war before. They were scouting, testing the ground before the strike inside the barn. Sarenthia was checking her children's hands, making sure their powers were calm. They're getting stronger, she said to Sam. But they're not ready to fight? Good, Sam replied. Because they won't need to. He had made a decision. They were not running anymore. He would make his stand here. On the dirt he had worked with his bare hands, on the land his father gave him, and his grandfather before that. I'm turning this place into a fortress, Sam said. Sarenthia blinked. With what? With everything I've got. Sam made a list in his mind. Old farm tools, barbed wire, steel sheets, wooden planks, leftover fencing, welding gear. Not enough for a war, but enough for a message. This land will not fall easy. He called a few people, men from old days, brothers from past battles. He didn't give details, just said, I need your help. And they came. By sunset. 4 trucks rolled in. Out stepped rough men with scarred hands and sharp eyes. One of them clapped Sam on the back. Didn't think you'd call. I didn't plan to, Sam said. But plans changed. They started fast. Built barricades out of hay bales and steel. Turned tractors into armor with metal plates. Buried motion sensors and wires under the soil. Sam took the kids aside and spoke to them gently. You're safe here, but we need you to stay inside and listen to your mom. The oldest nodded. We will. Sarenthia helped where she could, using her fading powers to charge batteries, melt metal and lift heavy beams, but she was slowing down. Sam noticed the way she hid her pain, her pale skin, the way she held her side when she thought no one was looking. Later that night, he found her sitting on the porch. Staring at the stars, he sat next to her without saying a word. After a long silence, she said, "I never thought I'd find peace on a world like this." Sam looked at her. "You haven't found peace yet." She gave a soft smile. "No, but I've found something else, a place worth protecting." Suddenly, a sound broke the quiet. A sharp crack from the edge of the field. Everyone froze. Sam raised his hand and one of the men used a drone to scan the area. The screen showed movement, not soldiers, not ships. A human figure crawling through the grass. They brought him in, confused and shaking. He wore a uniform, military but earth-based. "I intercepted a signal," the man said. "I came to warn you, they know what's here." Sam stepped forward. "How do you know?" "They're jamming Earth systems, hiding their arrival." "You're off the grid now." Sarenthia stepped beside Sam. "If Earth won't help us," she said, "then we help ourselves." The man looked at her with wide eyes. "You're not human," he whispered. "No," she said softly, "but I'm a mother." That night, no one slept. They set up trip alarms, mounted spotlights, and built a command tent. It wasn't a fancy base, no satellites or lasers, just raw courage. The children stayed quiet, helping where they could. The youngest girl painted a star on the barn wall using chalk. Sam watched her, heart heavy. These kids deserve to play in grass and laugh in sunshine, not hide in fear from a sky full of monsters. The final step was the tower. An old water tank was turned into a lookout point. Sam climbed up with binoculars and scanned the horizon. Then he saw it. A single ship, much bigger than the scouts before, breaking through the clouds. It wasn't coming fast, it was coming sure. Like a predator ready for the kill, he climbed down and walked to Sarenthia. "They're on the way," he said. She placed her hand on his chest. "Then we're ready." Sam looked around at what they had built. Wood, metal, wire, old rifles, young hope, and one brave alien family. It wasn't much. But sometimes heart was the greatest weapon of all. The sun didn't rise the next morning, not because it was gone, but because something far bigger had taken its place. Above the ranch, a shadow moved across the sky. A ship, black and massive, covered the clouds like a floating mountain. It made no sound, but the silence felt heavy, like the sky itself was holding its breath. Sam stood on top of the old water tower, binoculars shaking in his hands. "They're not hiding anymore," he muttered. Down below, Sarenthia stood beside her children. Holding them close, her eyes were fixed on the ship, her lips tight with fear and fury. "They've sent the elite," she said. "This is not a hunt, it's a warning." The ranch had become a fortress. Wooden barriers, hidden tripwires, electrified fences, watch points on every corner. Sam and his old war buddies had turned this patch of earth into a battlefield. Now the enemy had arrived. A bright beam of light cut through the clouds and hit the ground just outside the fence. From the light stepped 20 armored soldiers. Their armor was smooth, silver-black, pulsing with energy. They marched like machines, no hesitation, no fear. Behind them floated a tall figure in a red cloak, his face covered by a mask of gold. He carried no weapon, but the air around him bent and shimmered. "The Emperor's commander," Sarenthia whispered. "His name is Varnock." The soldiers spread out, forming a wall across the field. Then, a loud voice echoed in every direction. It didn't come from the sky or from a speaker. It came from inside their minds. "You are holding royal property. Release the Starborns and you may live." Sam climbed down from the tower, walked toward the gate, shotgun slung over his back. He didn't look afraid, just angry. He stepped past the barrier and called out, "They're not your property. They're children." Varnock floated forward, his voice still inside everyone's head. "You are interfering with royal business. Earth is not ready for what comes next." Sam gritted his teeth. "We weren't ready for the last war either," he said. "But we still won." The soldiers raised their weapons. Sarenthia stood beside Sam now, her hands glowing faint silver. Her children were behind the gate, protected by Sam's friends, now armed and in position. "This is your last warning," Varnock said. "Stand down or be destroyed." Sam looked at Sarenthia. "Still want to run?" She shook her head. "Not anymore." "Then let's give them a fight to remember," Sam said. He fired the first shot. It hit one of the armored soldiers right in the helmet. Sparks flew and the figure stumbled back. All at once, the ranch exploded into action. Bullets, energy blasts, smoke grenades, traps triggering in every direction. Sam's men used farm tools like weapons. Metal rods charged with batteries. Welding flames turned into flamethrowers. One used a chainsaw to slice into enemy armor. Sparks flying like fireworks, but the enemy was strong. 2 of Sam's men were hit by blue blasts and thrown across the yard. The kids screamed, but Sarenthia raised a shield of light over them, blocking the next strike. Varnock floated above the chaos, untouched. He lifted his hand and the barn roof began to split apart. Piece by piece, Sarenthia screamed and pushed all her energy upward, sealing the roof with pure light. Blood dripped from her nose. She was pushing herself too far. Sam saw her shaking and ran to her side. "You need to stop," he shouted. "If I stop—" "They'll take them," she whispered. Suddenly, the oldest child stepped forward, eyes glowing bright white, his hands lifted on their own. Power surged from his palms and struck the ground. The earth cracked, sending shock waves across the battlefield. Several enemy soldiers fell, stunned by the blast. Everyone froze. Even Varnock looked surprised. He looked at the boy and said, You are stronger than I expected." Then he turned and raised both hands toward the sky. A dark beam formed, black energy swirling like a storm. "Cover the children," Sam shouted just before the beam could hit. Something unexpected happened. A ship appeared, fast, loud, silver, and friendly. It fired a blue blast directly at Varnock, throwing him back into the sky. The ship landed near the ranch. Its ramp dropped and a woman with silver armor and glowing eyes stepped out. Sarenthia gasped. "My sister," she said. The woman looked at her, smiling. "You always find the most trouble, don't you?" The rebels had come. The last free fighters from Sarenthia's homeworld, hidden deep in space, had followed the same signal. Now the fight was even. Sam smiled for the first time in days. "Well, look at that," he said. "Guess Earth ain't alone anymore." The sky was clear again for the first time in many days. There were no warships above, no shadows moving through clouds, only the soft sun rising over the ranch. Warming the fields, Sam sat on the porch, his old rifle leaning beside him. His boots were muddy, his shirt torn, and his hands still shaking. But the war was over. Varnock had been defeated. The last of the Emperor's soldiers had been forced back into the sky by the rebels. The ship carrying Sarenthia's sister had taken off, chasing the retreating fleet, and now only Earth's wind remained, whispering through broken fences and burnt grass. Inside the barn, Sarenthia was asleep. Her children curled around her like petals on a flower. Her powers were gone, drained completely. She had given everything to protect her children. Her strength, her past, even her royal identity now. She was something new. Not a duchess, not a warrior, just a mother. Sam stood slowly and walked into the barn. He looked at the sleeping family, then turned to the back wall where a star-shaped chalk drawing still remained. He took a deep breath and began building. Day by day, he fixed what was broken, repaired the fences, cleaned the barn, rebuilt the roof. But this time he added more. He used pieces of the enemy ships to reinforce the walls. He added solar panels from Sarenthia's escape pod to power lights and water. He created rooms inside the barn, warm, clean, and strong. Not just for animals anymore, for a family. Sarenthia helped when she could. She cooked meals with earth vegetables and alien spices. She told bedtime stories to her children about old stars and forgotten empires. But she no longer spoke of going back. Sam asked her one evening, "You don't want to return to your world?" She shook her head. "There's nothing left there but ruins." "Here, I have hope," the children began calling Sam Uncle. Then one day, the youngest girl tugged on his sleeve and said, "Can I call you Dad?" Sam's heart nearly stopped. He knelt down, looked into her wide blue eyes, and nodded. "Yes, sweetheart," he said softly. "I'd like that." The ranch changed. Not just in looks, but in feeling. Laughter returned. Music played again from an old radio. The children ran through the fields like it was their world now, and maybe it was. Sarenthia stood on the porch one night, watching Sam fix the windmill. "You could have let them take us," she said. "You could have walked away." Sam wiped sweat from his brow and smiled. "Didn't feel like the right thing," he replied. "You saved more than just my children," she whispered. "You saved what was left of me." A soft breeze passed between them, and for a long moment no words were needed. Later that month, a visitor came. a man in a black suit from Earth's space agency. He stepped out of a sleek car and said, "We know what happened here." Sam crossed his arms. "Do you?" The man looked around. "We saw the sky tear open. We detected the ships. But we can't explain it to the world." "Then don't," Sam said. "Just let this place be." The man nodded. "As long as they stay hidden," he said, glancing at the children, "there will be peace." Sam didn't shake his hand, but he did offer one warning. "If anyone comes for them again," he said, "they'll have to come through me first." The car left quietly, kicking up dust, and the ranch returned to silence. Months passed, the fields grew tall again, the scars of battle faded into the soil, and a new life bloomed from the ashes of an old war. Sam built a proper house next to the barn, strong, warm, and filled with laughter. Saranthia placed her last piece of royalty, a silver emblem, above the front door. Not to remember who she was, but to honor who she had become. Each child grew strong, each one different. Each one carrying stars in their blood but earth in their heart. They didn't need a throne, they had a home. Sam sometimes looked at the sky, wondering if more would come. If the Emperor would send new monsters. If the stars would remain quiet, but no matter what, he was ready. Not with weapons, but with love, grit, and the kind of courage that builds, not breaks. One evening, as the sun dipped low and the fields turned gold, Saranthia walked up to Sam holding a small box. Inside was a piece of ancient metal, smooth, round and humming softly. "What's this?" he asked. "A key," she said, "to something I buried long ago." "Another ship?" Sam joked. She smiled. "No, a message." She placed the key into the old barn wall, and a hidden panel opened. A blue hologram flickered to life, her voice, recorded long ago. "If you find this, then I have found peace. And Earth has given me what my own world could not. Freedom." Sam looked at her, and she looked at him, and between them stood not a war, not a throne, but a home they had built together.